On the evening of 4th February, 1908, Condé Cunningham, a student at the Alabama Industrial School for Girls, now known as Montero University, decided to make chocolate. They are hot on their bedroom stove, which is contrary to regulations. But Candy and her friends don't care about the rules and do what they want. They sat on Condé's bed, talking and laughing, but what happened afterwards made the joy disappear from their faces and be replaced by horror. One of the girls accidentally kicked the burning stove, and Candy's body quickly spread fire, prompting her to run away and scream for help. Running away is the worst decision in this case. It increases the rate of ignition, and one has to lie on the ground and roll until the fire is extinguished. But Condé did not know. Her companions tried to cover her with the carpet, but she ran out of the room, and the carpet fell to the floor. She started running around the apartment building, screaming for help, and teachers and students heard the noise and rushed to rescue her, but before they could put out the fire, they were too late. The poor girl suffered severe burns and died 2 days after the incident. Condé was buried in Birmingham's Oak Hill Cemetery, but since the traumatic incident, everyone sleeping on the 4th floor of the college dorm has heard harrowing screams, as well as the sound of Condé's footsteps. There was a girl in the hallway screaming for help, but when they opened the door, they found no one. Late at night, a student in the same room where the Condé incident happened heard violent knocks on the door, and when she opened the door, she was surprised that a burned body was walking in the hall toward her. It was black and charred, surrounded by a terrible flame. It looked like a human-shaped fire. The girl closed the door of the room in horror, turned around, and found that her bed was burning on its own. Early the next morning, the girl packed her belongings, retrieved her papers from the university, and left. According to the testimony of Condé's colleagues, one of the worst things that happened was that a few days after her death, the wooden door of her room was painted in the face of a girl surrounded by fire, screaming in horror. The manager changed the wooden door, but soon the face returned. And it keeps on going. Whenever they change the door, the face comes back again. The girls were so horrified by the incident that the management eventually decided to remove the door of the room completely and place it in a storage room where the horrifying face can still be seen to this day. Condé's room was still without a door, and all the girls refused to sleep in it. In addition, according to the testimony of the girls living in the dormitory today, the doors opened on their own. They heard the girls' screams. There was noise in the corridor, and they heard the screams of her ghost in the bathroom. A college girl's speech. A girl named Sarah goes to visit her friends at college. She really loves the place and the students and enjoys visiting. But when her friend Crystal tells her about the ghost of Candy, she is a fan. Sarah didn't believe her at first, until she saw the door open with her eyes, and then she saw the door open, shut down on its own, and open the computer on its own. A girl named Kenya also said she heard people running in lounges and stairs, but when she went to check, she found no one. Melissa and Amy watched the carpet move on its own, as if the air was moving through it. Caroline went to the shower, hearing the door open and close violently, and then heavy steps coming from outside the bathroom door. I got to a cabin at the end of the bathroom. Suddenly, the door closed, and Caroline heard a terrible scream, a huge scream. In pain, Caroline gathered her strength to open the cab, but no one was inside, and it didn't stop when she heard Coney's screams. Some students had seen her too, and Sarah said she woke up at night and saw a girl wearing white pajamas in front of her, who she thought was her roommate. The light was weak, and she was not wearing glasses, and when she reached the table to take her glasses, she found her companion sleeping on the bed next to her, and she screamed in panic and woke up her companion, who also saw the ghost. He began to scream until a cosmic ghost begins to disappear, until it evaporates into the air. Sarah thought that if she asked to be moved to the third floor, the ghost would disappear and stop disturbing her. But she was wrong, and on the night she slept in her new room, she got up and looked at the next clock and discovered the bed. I was surprised to see the ghost in front of her, staring at her. Then she started pointing her finger at her, as if she was asking her to follow her. Sarah was afraid to follow her, but she was sure she wanted her to come with her to the hallway. 2 girls went and took a camera with them in the hope of capturing Condé's ghost, went to the wooden door on which Condé's face was allegedly painted after her death, and they saw nothing. They felt like someone was watching them. After Sarah visited her friends for the last time, she began to think about her decision to go to college and whether she could live in Montreux after knowing what happened to Connie. Dear listener, what about you? Can you live at the University of Montevallo? If you were Sarah's place, would you apply to this college after high school because you know that Conte's ghost still roams the hallways at night? The episode was documented in the Real Scary Stories TV show program about Condé, and details of what the girls at the university. It has also been shown in many other programs and has written many articles about it. Here's another real story titled Communicating with the Dead. Andrea Girard was crossing his farm in the morning, going to his pasture to choose 6 sheep to sell on the market, and from the time he did not return home until the age of the same day, his wife came out anxiously with his son looking for the absent father, and when they failed to find him, he reported to the police. The next day, the police arrived in the small village of Ousti, in France, to search for the missing peasant. Andrea Girard was a wealthy man who owned much of the village's land. He was over 70 years old, and the police believed he had died somewhere. Detective Paul Marshall arrived on the afternoon of 4th October, 1938. With him, he had 2 informant assistants who searched for the old man with the help of the village mayor, the local police, and some peasants. In the land owned by Girard and in the forests, after which they searched nearby ponds with long sticks. The man may have fallen into one of them because of his age and may have stumbled. I mentioned the wife of one of the peasants who works in Girard's land. She saw him leaving the fields with the 6 sheep, carrying food for her husband and never seeing him again. The investigation lasted 3 days, but they couldn't solve the mystery. It came to Dr. Eugene Favreau, and the man was the director of the Metaphysical Institute in Paris at the time. The man then called Limoges police station and provided his services that he could help find a tractor. The warden agreed and asked the doctor to come to the village. The doctor replied that he would not attend, but wanted some little things that belonged to the disappeared man. They brought him a green scarf belonging to Girard. Dr. Favreau took the scarf to the apartment of a lady named Addis Morel, and she was a spiritual mediator, and she had a talent and a 6th sense of those things and she could happen with the dead and their wishes and guidance. The doctor asked her, "Do you know anything about the man with the scarf?" I put the scarf in front of her table, and she looked at him for a while, and then she said he was wearing very rough clothes, a jacket and trousers, and somebody hijacked him against his will. He was walking in a high field, and he got into the woods, and he had a man wearing a black coat and a black hat. Dr. Favroa said, "Is the old man okay?" She said, "No, he's dead down the dirt now," and he told her, and where his body was, she said near Limoges, even though she didn't know where it was. She had not visited it before, but she said the place in detail and drew a map of where the old man's body was. He asked her about the man he killed. She said she didn't know, but he doesn't have all the fingers in his hands. Dr. Favrot sent his report to the police. She took the police looking in the woods for the place the lady painted, and they found a tractor's body and was shot in the head, after which an unemployed car worker named Barbier was arrested. The man had his fingers cut off, and they found his guns with him. And the man admitted that he killed the old man's tractor. The man was shocked that they knew about it and that no one saw it today. And the police didn't tell him anything because they themselves couldn't believe what had happened, and that someone was talking to the dead and knowing to communicate with them. And in January 1939, the man was executed